Hey everyone and welcome back. We're diving into the world of B2B content marketing today, and I've got to say, I'm really excited about this one.
This is one you're not going to want to miss, that's for sure.
We're talking award-winning, top-tier stuff here. And to make it even better, we're taking a real behind-the-scenes look.
Yeah, none of that theoretical pie-in-the-sky stuff here. We're all about what actually gets results in the real world, right?
You got it. So we're cracking open the LinkedIn profile of Gary S., content expert over at Experian. And if you know data, you know Experian.
Seriously, when it comes to data-driven marketing, these guys wrote the book, literally. So when someone at Experian starts winning content awards, well, you know they're onto something special.
It's like finding out the guy who built Google also makes the best sourdough bread in town,
Right, so we've got his articles, his activity, everything. And let me tell you, this guy's profile, pure gold, a total gold mine.
Okay, so spill the tea. What's got you so hyped about Gary S.?
One thing that immediately struck me was how generous he is with his knowledge. You see him in the comment sections giving really detailed, thoughtful advice to other marketers.
I mean, he's not just dropping a great post and bouncing.
Nah, this is next level stuff. He's really invested in helping other people succeed, which honestly more people should be doing.
I'm with you on that. Okay, so he's building a community, not just his brand. Give me an example. What kind of advice is he dropping in these comments?
All right, so one thing that really stood out to me was his advice on calls to action in videos.
Okay, yeah, gotta have him.
Right, but he found that most people just kind of slap it on at the end, and yeah, that makes sense.
Totally. Like and subscribe.
Exactly. But Gary, he
Yeah.
discovered that by adding one midway through the video, the subscriber rate just shoots up.
Interesting. I'm totally guilty of only doing the end screen call to action. Because you're right, it's kind of the standard advice. Why mess with what works?
Right. Turns out you can always optimize. But yeah, that's what I love about Gary's advice. It's super practical. He had another tip about salvaging remote interviews when the audio is just trash.
Oh, please. If there's a magic bullet for that, I need to know. Because
Yes.
my internet, we'll just say it's not unpredictable.
You're telling me. So no fancy software or anything. This is just good old-fashioned ingenuity. He basically says, have your guest record a voice memo on their phone at the same time. Yep. Apparently, the audio quality can be surprisingly good. And then in post, you sync up the track.
That is so smart. See, this is why we do this, digging into the details. You never know what little golden nugget you're going to find.
100%. It's those small things that can make or break your content.
It's funny, though, right? You'd think someone at Experian, a company built on data, their content would be, all data, all the time.
Right. Super dry, just spreadsheets and graphs.
But Gary's stuff, it doesn't feel that way at all.
No, not even close. And that's what's so interesting. You can tell he's using beta to inform his strategy, but not letting it dictate the whole thing.
So it's data informed, not data driven.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important distinction. He totally gets that, especially these days. You can't just hit people over the head with data and expect them to, care.
Yeah. People want to be entertained. They want to be engaged.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On multiple levels. And that's another thing I picked up from Gary, this focus on diversifying content formats. He talks a lot about podcasts, video, infographics.
Oh, yeah. Who isn't talking about video these days? It's almost like cliche advice at this point, isn't it?
It is, but, and this is key, Gary's insights, they go way deeper. It's not just, hey, make a video. He actually breaks down the strategies for each format, which I find super helpful.
Okay, so what? Give me an example.
So, podcasts. He's a huge believer in thorough guest research. And I don't just mean reading their bio on their website, but really understanding their expertise, what they're passionate about.
So you can actually have a real conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And ask insightful questions that spark something interesting, something beyond the typical talking points. And, sometimes that means being willing to have those tough conversations.
Especially when you realize halfway through the interview that your guest is, let's just say, not as engaging as you hoped.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gary gets that. And then with video, he talks a lot about optimizing for different platforms. Don't just take your long YouTube video and throw it on TikTok, right?
Oh, God, no. People will scroll so fast.
Exactly. You got to adapt, make it snappy. He's
Yeah.
really big on that.
It's true, especially these days. Attention spans. What attention spans?
I know, right? But here's the thing that I thought was super interesting. He also talks about infographics, which some people might think are kind of, a little old school.
Yeah, a little bit.
But Gary makes a case for them, especially if you can collaborate with a talented designer. He even suggests looking into AI tools to make them really pop.
Interesting. So he's really got his finger on the pulse, huh? Which, by the way, reminds me, we were talking about Gary winning awards for his work at Experian. What did he actually do?
Oh, right. So remember how we were just talking about shrinking attention spans? Well, Gary and his team, they actually won an award for their Sip and Solve webinar series.
Sip and solve. It's kind of catchy, actually. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So they realized that people are busy, right? Nobody has time for an hour-long webinar anymore.
Oh, no. I've walked out of those more times than I can count.
So they flipped the script. They created these 15-minute episodes, super bite-sized, easily digestible content.
It's like snackable content, but for webinars.
Yes, exactly. And get this, they didn't just air them live and forget about it. They archived each episode, used them in nurture campaigns, repurposed little snippets for social media, really squeezed every last drop.
Smart. Love that. Work smarter, not harder, as
Yeah.
they say.
Right. And it paid off big time. Their engagement rates went through the roof. Over 30% of people signed up for like multiple sessions. But here's the kicker. They didn't just stop there. They actively asked for feedback and kept tweaking and improving.
Always iterating, always testing. Love it. Okay, so we're not just talking content expert here. This guy is like a full-on marketing strategist.
100%. He's thinking about the whole picture. And that's what I love about Gary. It's never just about one thing. Like, there's this other thing on his profile that really jumped out at me, something I wasn't expecting.
Oh, okay. Now you know I love a good plot twist.
Right. So he's really into volunteer work, like actually walks the walk. He produces these incredible videos for organizations like Thomas House Family Shelter.
That is so cool. You know, it really says something about someone when they're willing to use their skills to give back like that.
It really does. And you know what? It also reveals another layer to his content expertise, something we haven't really touched on yet.
Oh, okay. Now you've got me curious. What am I missing?
Storytelling. Think about it. His work with these nonprofits, it all comes down to storytelling, knowing how to craft a narrative that really connects with people.
That's true. It's about evoking emotion, making people feel something, and ultimately inspiring them to take action. Powerful stuff.
Exactly. And that's something that, honestly, a lot of B2B content misses the mark on.
Yeah, it's easy to get bogged down in the technical details, the data, all that.
Right. But Gary, he gets it. He understands that at the end of the day, stories, those are what resonate with people, what makes information memorable, even in a business context.
So true. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here from strategy to, heartwarming volunteer work. But for our listeners who are saying, okay, I'm ready to put this into action, what are those key takeaways, those nuggets of wisdom they should be walking away with?
You know, if there's one thing that really stands out to me about Gary, it's that he's a constant learner. Remember how we were talking about him being so engaged in those LinkedIn comments, always asking questions, sharing ideas?
Yeah, totally.
That's a true sign of someone who's committed to growth, to always getting better.
It's like they say, the day you stop learning is the day you stop growing.
100%. And speaking of learning, another key takeaway, I think, is knowing your audience. It sounds so obvious, but Gary doesn't just create content because it's trendy. Everything he does, it's tailored to his audience, to what they actually care about.
Which goes back to what you were saying about diversifying content formats. Meet your audience where they are.
Exactly. Experiment. Try new things. See what sticks.
And, before we wrap up, I think Gary's volunteer work, it really highlights something important. It's not always just about, the bottom line, right? Sometimes it's about using your skills to do some good in the world.
Beautifully said. It's about finding that thing that lights you up and going for it. And who knows, you might inspire some people along the way.
Couldn't agree more. Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. For everyone listening, remember, content marketing, it's not about churning out as much content as you can. It's about quality, strategy, and, a little bit of heart. So keep experimenting, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.